From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hujavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, Mike at the mic yesterday seemed clear of mind. Is Norvell rejuvenated for the rebuild? Connecting to high school recruits. It's been the major bugaboo for Mike Norvell, so will that strength be in high demand as the hires come into focus for Florida State? Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Vitamins, energy, nutrients, Vitamin Energy, everybody. warchantbogo, the promo code, buy one, get one free, buy four, get four free. You know how it works. You've utilized it. Let a friend know about the promo code. Better yet, buy some. Spread it to the masses. Throw it in a stocking. Put it in the break room. Put it on your desk. Hey, Bob, need to talk to you about those TPS reports. Cheer them up a little bit, though, beforehand. When you drop the hammer, before you drop the hammer. Just like, here, take a shot. Shake it and take it. Try it. You'll like it. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code again, warchantbogo. Buy one, get one free. Noles behind this whole operation, making this thing go along. So, Noles helping Noles. That's how it works, everybody. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. I think the 150 special is still going, Corey. $1 for a week, 50% off an annual membership. Try us out, everybody. That'll take you well into another playoff run, we hope. Or can I say another playoff run? It's been 10 years. But
well, it's
technically
been 0 years. There's only been a playoff really for, well, I guess technically the Oregon game was a playoff game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been 10 years. I would say last year they made a run.
Yeah.
It wasn't their fault they got snubbed, but they were in the running, so I think that accounts for a playoff run.
Yeah, that snub, it would have been cool because Florida State would have played in the first ever BCS title game. They would have played in the last BCS title game. They would have played in the first ever 4-team college football playoff. They would have played in the last 4-team college football playoff. Didn't get the opportunity, though. Would have been a hell of a...
They got to make history, though, as the only undefeated Power 5 team to not be invited to the playoff. That was pretty cool.
That too.
So they got to live in infamy, or actually the committee lives in infamy for that.
Largest bowl loss in history, too, I guess, right? So.
I mean, I would say that's all because of the committee, if we're being honest.
Anyways, moving along, everybody. It's game week. Charleston Southern, the Noles, 33.5-point favorite. Corey Clark, what do you think about that big number?
It is a big number. It'd be something to see that scoreboard get into the 30s. I guess North Carolina is the only team that's scored over 30 in that stadium this year. So it would be nice. Right. It'd be nice if someone could do that. It'd be nice if it was the Noles. And if it's not, if it's Charleston Southern scoring in the 30s, that's going to be a bad look because they don't score against anyone in the FCS level. So you got to imagine Daryl Jackson and Josh Farmer and those guys at the defensive line. I don't know that Charleston Southern's going to have a lot for them to block. But we'll see. We'll see.
How do they cover that? 35-0? Like 38-3?
60-20? I don't know, buddy. I don't know. It's hard to know. It's Charleston Southern's last game of the year. It's a crazy schedule that these kids have already played 11 games, gotten their heads kicked in 10 times, and now you go make them play this team for just so you guys can make some money for the program. That's it'll be interesting to see how hard they try. But also there's the flip side of, hey, it's our Super Bowl against this 1-9 Florida State football team. So yeah, I don't know how it's all going to work.
Trap game for the
odd
Noles?
schedule though. Yeah, it is a trap game. Yep, coming off between bye and Florida.
Yeah,
trap game. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we spoke to Coach Mike Norvell yesterday. We'll speak to Randy Shannon after practice today, and then I think John Papuchis on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So we'll get some coordinator QT, quality time, if you will. What stood out to you about Mike Norvell on Monday, Corey? I threw this in the group chat. Nobody responded, so I'll stay in my corner.
I was working out when you texted. Sorry, buddy.
That's fine. That's fine.
Then that was
the most polished he's been speaking, I think, ever. I feel like when he took this job, I feel like maybe part of you kind of has maybe some level of imposter syndrome where you're like, man, like I'm here now. Like I am the head coach at Florida State University. I need to maybe hold some sort of level of gravitas, if you will. So I don't know how much of his first few years was trying to project an air of confidence, an air of, I belong here. Because, we get some good answers out of Mike, but then sometimes, his answer could have probably wrapped up 30 seconds prior, but he adds on some other stuff that you're kind of like, all right, that was cool. Much like this question and this whole sort of diatribe I'm on right now, Corey. Could have maybe wrapped it up. But then, I don't know, maybe you get $10 million and then you feel another level of pressure from that. So you kind of keep having these filibuster level responses to fairly simple, innocuous questions. But on Monday, he was he wasn't terse. He was very concise and to the point, and it was all about brevity, it felt like. And I wonder if that was, this is like, if this is Mike 2.0, some level of really true self-confidence, or maybe I spoke with Michael Alford and we both laughed. Like, there's no way you guys are getting rid of me. I've got 2 years to figure this out and a boatload of money to get good coordinators. What did you take away from Monday's press conference, at least maybe in terms of the way Mike was at the podium? Was there anything to what I've just said the last minute that has any credence in your mind? Come on, fake it, man.
Sure, Aslan, that's as astute as always, my man. You've got the finger on the pulse. It's hard when I wasn't in the room, so I was watching online. He did seem a little more, a little more brief in his comments. But as the guy that transcribes them, as best I can, there's still a lot of ellipses in there where it's like hard to keep up because he goes in a couple of different directions. So polished isn't the right. I don't think polished is the right. And again, it's not like he goes on Jimbo segues or
tangents.
Tangents. He usually keeps to the point. It's just sometimes it's not even he trips over words. He just stops sentences and starts over with something else. But so it wasn't if he was polished like he was reading off a teleprompter. But man, it did seem like he was. I think he's in an interesting place where he's. There weren't folks. I'll just go ahead and say it. There weren't a lot of questions about the Charleston Southern game. There were a couple, but not many. Most of them are about the coaching search and what he's looking for, and he knew that was coming. And so it's a fine line he has to walk of, like, he can't give us names. He's not even trying to give us hints. But he does want to give information, and he's answering questions the best way he can. He answered questions the absolute best way he could without getting too insightful with the answers, if that makes sense. And I thought he did a fine job. I thought to me, the most illuminating part of it, and he said it last week, and he said it again this week, and this really has nothing to do with the coaching search. It's more of like I think it's a lament of his from this season, is when he's talking about the defense and how he wants to see them play with confidence and play fast. He keeps saying that over and over. I just want to see guys that they're going out there, they're going to play confidence, they believe in what they're doing, they're going to play with confidence, they're going to play fast, because clearly that wasn't getting done with the old regime. So that just caught my ear. That I think he'd had enough. He fired him. It's not like this is breaking news, but I think probably the biggest issue he had with Fuller is it didn't look like they were prepared. Not even they didn't look like they were prepared. They just didn't look like a confident football team. They never fired on that side of the ball, ever. Obviously, the offense is a joke, but the defense has some talent, but they never fired off the ball, and I just thought that was interesting that he kept coming back to when asked about Randy Shannon, saying, I just want to see them play confident and play with some aggression.
Well, it's like Randy's going to have full autonomy to do what he kind of wants to do. I wonder, it's kind of, hey, man, you got 3 weeks. Just, I wonder how much of it's Mike saying, this is what I want it to look like, or Mike is just like, I don't know, man, just fix it the best you can for 3 weeks. Maybe I'll ask Randy that after practice today, what his kind of charge has been. Yeah, that was something that was said that was interesting. I also thought, I don't know, it felt a little sincere, or maybe a little more sincere than usual, more sincere than the usual. Thought it was a good work day today. When he talked about the way they've been practicing, like he liked the way they worked last week, because there's got to be a lot of uncertainty, not just around these coaches and the assistants and the people in the front office and all and the support staff and everything, but a lot of these players, committed to these coaches, thought they're going to play under these coordinators, and they're no longer here, and they know there's going to be new guys coming in, and with the way the portal is, I guess you're comforted by the fact that you have an avenue to go find another landing spot, but probably doesn't feel all that great when the guy that you were taking orders from the last whatever 3 months or 3 years is no longer here, but sounds like they came out and practiced well. We'll see if we can corroborate that later on today when we get to watch practice. But I don't know, maybe just a fresh start for everybody will be good. I mean, but obviously playing Charleston Southern, a 33.5-point underdog, probably even the better elixir for this team right now, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, they need a win. They need to see what it's like to stand in the end zone with the football. That would be a welcome sight for almost everybody on this team. Like, you think about the guys that are coming back next year. How many of those guys have scored a touchdown this year? Landon Thomas scored one, right?
Yeah.
Ain't many. Like, Toa Feely has a few. I know Roy Dell has probably 4. I don't know if he's going to be back. I don't think he's a senior, right?
They're pushing. They're pushing to. Well, actually, have him ready for this season, I guess. To your point, but
yeah,
I thought he said something
season,
about
like it'd be nice to have guys that are going to be here next year actually feel what it's like to stand in the end zone with the football. Like even against Charleston Southern, like do something, have a highlight, and this would be a good weekend for it. Obviously,
I'm trying to see here. Like I don't know if the way he made it sound like was they were going to try to get Roydell back, but then maybe Roydell actually hasn't exhausted his eligibility because he got hurt when the Memphis game. I think that was game 3 of the season. So,
yeah, I think they said. Yeah, I think he would have, even if he came back, he might be able to take a red shirt. I think that's kind of the way the question was phrased, and he's like, well, he won't come back for this game, but he might be able to come back for the next game, and I think the insinuation is he could come back this game and still have eligibility for next year. Like he would still be eligible for redshirt. I think that's even how the question was framed that Jordan asked was about whether they had thought about giving red shirts to him or I thought Jordan asked about DJ Lundy. But
no, DJ Uyunglele, buddy. Come
but
on,
Norvell talked about Uyunglele.
When he said he won't be ready, did that sound like he won't be ready Saturday or he won't be ready this season?
Who? Roydell?
DJ.
No, DJ's not coming back. That's what I thought he meant. Yeah, he could hold the football, but it didn't sound like he's coming back. But he wouldn't ask if DJ was eligible for a red shirt, but Lundy would be, right?
Well, you never know in this day and age.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he could be a 9th year, 10th year senior. By the way, so his brother's one of the best defensive players in America, apparently.
Good
Oregon?
Linebacker. Yeah, really good linebacker.
That's
Mateo.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
Strong name. How many players do you think have scored a touchdown for Florida State this year, by the way, Corey?
I mean, it's not hard to count. Toa Feely, Samuel Singleton, Roydell, Landon Thomas, Malik Benson has one.
When did he score a touchdown, Malik
I thought
Benson?
he scored a touchdown against North Carolina, maybe?
Well, I didn't count the Singleton touchdown.
Well, you should. That still counts.
Well, you might be right. For some reason, Florida State's PDF stats hasn't been updated since October 19th.
Weird.
They only had 6 at that point.
Yeah, they've doubled that. Aslan, they've doubled that production since.
Let's say 6 players, not 6 total touchdowns.
Oh, sorry. It can't be much more than that. 6 or 7. So I know Toa Feely, I know Landon Thomas, I know Roydell, Ja'Kai, Samuel Singleton.
Keziah's got a touchdown.
Keziah, and I thought Benson had one, but maybe he didn't.
Toa Feely, Roydell, and Keziah Holmes have your 5 rushing touchdowns on the season.
Okay. Chances are, the pretty good chance, right, none of them will be back.
Yeah. Ja'Kai, Malik Benson, Kentron, Landon Thomas, Amari Williams have your 8 receiving touchdowns this year.
So at least Ja'Kai, Benson won't be back, and Portier won't be back. So you hope the 2 tight ends come back.
Yeah.
So, there you go. You're talking, and Singleton has a kickoff return. So 3 guys on the team. So it'd be nice to double that number. Get some guys in there. Let LaWayne McCoy see what it's like to score a touchdown. Maybe have a strip sack and a fumble. Maybe Azaria gets a pick 6. Something like that. Something different. There's not much to gain from this game other than a win. Obviously a loss would be just the cherry on top of this embarrassment. But that seems – it's not implausible. It can happen. They're a 33-point favorite. They're not a 100-point favorite. But just, again, Charleston Southern at the end of the season, their offense is atrocious. The problem is they will be a challenge on defense. I don't think they suck on defense. I think they're decent. And you've got 2 quarterbacks where you have no idea what they're going to do. They could literally throw 3 pick 6s. And then you're in a real game or you might get blown. I mean, all that stuff can happen. So you hope you can run it on them, man. Wouldn't that be nice to just push them around, push little old Charleston Southern around and run for 300 yards? But we'll see what happens. But it'd be nice to just get a win to double the win total.
The Bucks 50th in total defense, allowing 348 yards a game in the FCS level, 63rd in the FCS scoring defense, allowing 25.5 points per game.
That seems 25.5 points per game isn't a ton.
No,
I would have thought that'd be a little higher. But also, they're kind of in the same boat as Florida State, where it's hard to judge those numbers without the context of how bad their offense is. Yeah. Like, their offense is so bad, they're going to give up some points and yards, and that defense is on the field a ton, so eventually they give up touchdowns.
Can you believe you just said Charleston Southern, same boat, Florida State? We're talking about intercollegiate tackle football.
It's problematic. It's problematic.
So I asked Mike about the comment he made last week where he's going to respect everybody's conference championship runs, possibly things like that when it comes to the coaching search. And Corey asked him if that's not going to be a factor, like, are you unlikely to make fill some of these vacancies before the end of the regular season? And then he said no. He didn't say no, but he's like, I'll in respect to everybody playing, we'll have a kind of a direction of where we hope to have a direction of where we're going to go as soon as we're done with our regular season. So I kind of ask you this, Corey, odd question, but I'm not a Mike Got Us guy. No offense to our guy, Mike Myrick. Keep posting the hashtag everywhere you got to go. But I mean, there's some things with Norvell that, like, I will trust him. I will give him the deference of being a relatively successful head coach. The fact that he doesn't feel like this urgency to get some of these roles filled because this is such a condensed, truncated recruiting calendar. Again, National Signing Day for high school kids. That early signing period is December 4th. That's the Wednesday after the Florida game. It's only a 3-day window. Portal opens before the playoff starts. How much of him maybe not being in a completely tripping over himself, urgent, code red level rush to get these things filled, do you think underscores that he likes this roster maybe on the whole?
Oh, no. I think you're putting too much you're putting too much credence in what he said today, and you're making a big leap, I think, to say that just because he said he's going to wait till the regular season is over, that he's not urgently filling these positions. These positions, a couple of them might have already been filled. I definitely think they will be filled by Friday night before the Florida game, meaning he's made his decision. He's going to hire those guys. There's an agreement in place. There's principle in place for the people to come. He's just not going to announce it. That's what he means. I don't think you could make the leap that he's not treating this very urgently. How could he not? I don't think he's just like, well, we got a game plan for Charleston Southern. I'll deal with that when I deal with it. No, man, I think he knows probably who's not coming back that's still on the staff. And I think he's got people that he even said he's had conversations. However you want to frame that. He's had conversations. He had conversations in the bye week. He did some evaluation in the bye week. I absolutely think he's locked and loaded with names for this coaching staff. It's just a matter of, it's not, you wouldn't want a coach at Ohio State to come out and say, yeah, Surtain's going to be our secondary coach next season. Right now, I mean, you wouldn't care now because they're 1-9. I get it. But last year at this time, you wouldn't have wanted that to happen. So I think it's just the deference to the way the sport, just the protocol in saying, okay, I think Monday is when you're gonna have.
Monday after Charleston Southern, Monday after the Gator game.
Monday after Florida, I think is when you'll probably, because Sunday will be the announcement of probably a couple other terminations. And then I think Monday is when they start ripping off the names of the assistant coaches that have been hired. It's not like he fired these guys on Sunday morning and then over the next 24 hours decided who was going to be on his coaching staff. That's all taking place right now, and I think he's doing it very urgently. I just think he's not going to say – it serves no purpose, because if they can't come right now, which they wouldn't leave their team right now. There's no purpose in making a formal announcement yet. But I think he's got some ideas.
Well, I mean, you got to recruit guys. I mean, again,
you got to give up that ghost, man. Like this isn't. It sucks, but when you're naming a brand new staff and then signing day is 3 days later, that doesn't bode. It's hard. So you do have to do that, but you got to get these coaches right more than you got to make sure Solomon Thomas gets here for his freshman year. You can always circle back around and get the big guy next year, but you've got to make darn sure you don't want to rush into a bad hire. But you've got to you want to have a staff in place. But, I mean, look, think about this, man. Let's say it is Coach Marion at UNLV. I did some background work on him, by the way. That'd be a good hire, I think. But
he hasn't been around big boy football.
He has. He was at Texas.
That was enough for you.
That was enough. And who else did he coach? He coached a spot before. Oh, he coached Jordan Addison at Pitt. All about he was on the same staff with Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take a guy that's been around that. And what he's done to UNLV, the fact that they went from like 26 points a game to 40 points or 35 points a game the next year, and now they're at 40 points a game in his second year. All good stuff. But I think his quarterback last year is now the quarterback at USC.
That is true.
Is that right?
That is
okay,
true.
So I like that too. He had a quarterback that was good enough that Lincoln Riley wanted him. But anyway, so that guy, won't he be coaching in a conference championship game? Probably. Maybe.
Mountain West?
Do they have those? I assume that Mountain West, every conference has a championship game. They might be I think I saw they still have an outside shot to be a playoff team.
Boise State and Colorado State are both undefeated in Mountain West play. UNLV's got one loss.
Colorado State's undefeated, huh?
In conference play, yeah. 5.
All right, okay. So, but there's a chance then UNLV could get into the conference championship game.
Yeah, and I don't care. Hire him. But I guess this maybe goes back to Mike's personal experience. No, I think you would hire him.
I think you absolutely would hire him. I don't think you say, hey, man, I know you've coached these guys for 2 years, and you've got a chance to not only win this conference, but maybe if you're the highest-ranked Group of 5 conference champion, you've got a chance to go to the playoff. You're leaving and coming here tomorrow. I don't think Norvell's going to do that.
Man.
I think Mike Norvell was announced before he coached in his championship game, right?
No, it was not like the school didn't announce it, but I think Chris Lowe had broke the news that Mike Norvell was expected to be the next head coach.
I thought it had already been announced. I thought that's why Florida State fans were watching that game so closely, because he had already been announced as the next head coach, because I thought that Sunday is when it was his introductory press conference. So the point being, yes, you can announce it. After the regular season, you can announce this guy's going to be on our coaching staff, because you need him. But you can let him coach that conference championship game if he wants, and his head coach might be, no, that's okay, we'll take it. Or he might be like, yeah, can you stick around and game plan this game for us? We'll see. But yeah, I do think just because he's not announcing that Marion's the coach today doesn't mean he's not in line to be the coach, and it doesn't mean he won't announce it 2 weeks from now. That's all. I don't think you can wait until if UNLV makes a run to the playoff and then wins a game. You can't be waiting until after New Year to name your OC. That it would already be known by then. And that's all pure speculation, folks. I have no idea if that guy's coming or not. You guys know who I want.
Are you still on the Longo train? What about Tom Herman being available now?
No chance. You know what scares me about Tom Herman, other than he's always seemed just like an insufferable D-bag, is
it might be the next offensive coordinator at Florida State. Corey, come on.
Well, then I'll have to get to know him, I guess. But he fired that DC there last week at FAU. FAU, right?
Correct.
He was there. So he fired the DC last week. Then Tom Herman got fired on Monday. And the administration went back and hired the fired DC to come back as the interim head coach.
Ooh.
Tell me that's not the biggest FU to a coach you just fired, which means, okay, he must rub everyone the wrong way. Like, not only am I going to fire you, I'm going to mock you by bringing back the guy you fired to run this program for the next 2 games. So that in the other places he's been, it just seems like he's not a very well, number one, he hasn't achieved anything. He hasn't done well at all as a head coach. And his offenses haven't been good lately. And then the fact that he seems just like a absolute jerk. I would think Norvell would want to stay away from somebody like that. Although he fits the culture.
Trying to go back and find the timeline on the hire, and I'm not able to get anything definitive. But
man, I talked a long time there, Aslan. I gave you a chance.
I mean, well, at first I thought it was Chris Lowe who did it, but it was actually Mark Schleybaugh. But Saturday, the school will introduce its next head coach at a news conference. Or they said in a statement on Saturday, that was Saturday, December 7th.
That had to be conference championship day.
Yeah. So.
Because I hate that, because you don't want, especially a head coach, I guess OCs aren't usually interviewed after games anyway, But Norvell's got to sit there after his team just won a conference championship, one of the biggest wins in Memphis football history, and then answer questions about if he's going to be the head coach at Florida State. So that's why I thought there was a lot of goodwill and people were cheering for him. I just thought they already knew he was going or probably going. Maybe they announced it after the game. I don't remember. But it was known, right? We weren't surprised that Sunday morning that Norvell was the head coach at Florida State.
Oh no, not after the AAC championship game. Because I remember I tried to find the post-game radio show on the Memphis radio network to listen to his post-game. And I think they did ask him about, will this be your last game here, coach? And he just I don't want to talk about that or something. He's like, I'm not focused on.
Yeah, that's an answer that tells you everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do wonder. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that it is Brennan Marion who's at UNLV right now, and they do make the conference championship game. Well, that game is played the day after National Signing Week ends. So what are you going to tell? That's why I think you'd have to announce it. And I also, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, he is an up-and-comer, man. He might get plenty of great opportunities, I guess. But I would think you wouldn't want to spoil your chance to be the FSU OC by saying, no, you got to keep this on the down low. You've got to tell these recruits. You do have to tell the recruit. They are going to want to know.
To stop chasing the ghost, Corey.
No,
chasing the ghost again.
But I mean, the recruiting class isn't going to be isn't going to be great anyway. But this guy could attract some dudes. When you look at his offense and you look at certainly the receivers I just mentioned, you look up what the receivers are doing for this team, you think he might have inroads with some guys. And I don't know that you could go into National Signing Day and not at least have an OC. Now, I'm not saying he'll be on the staff officially in that capacity.
He'll be announced. Yeah, I just don't know if that Sunday after the Gator game, man, you get 2 days to make phone calls and get on a plane and – before, I guess you got till Friday. I guess you got till Friday.
And you'll just Zoom and FaceTime. Yeah. It's 2024. Am I right?
It is.
What are we doing? That's just an excuse for coaches to go to Applebee's on the road and have a couple beers before bed. They don't need to be on the road anymore. Just Zoom with these families.
Yeah. A lot of coaches around the country bummed that Tallahassee hasn't been cranking out the top-level high school talent it has in the past, because when they would come to Tallahassee to vet these players, they wouldn't go to Applebee's. They'd go to Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. Coldest beer in town, best wings, I say. Darts, billiards, as Corey pointed out. Golden Tee, get some. Compete, everybody, compete. Yeah. You can compete at trivia later tonight, 7 o'clock, and then on bingo Thursday night, 7 p.m. Right. Yep. 4 different rounds of cash up for grabs. $250 each round, $1,000 up for grabs the entire night. And then don't forget Friday, meet and greet. Jeff Cameron, Corey Clark, other dignitaries from the warchant.com brand, possibly, tentatively, scheduled to be out there. Come hang out as you get into town before you check into your hotel, or maybe after you check into your hotel, drop your bags off. Come get a great bite to eat and hang out with some great dudes like Corey and Jeff. They'll be there from 5 to 6 minimum, but later than that usually.
Probably, yeah.
Sure, there'll be some good game on Friday night.
Oh, you know what else I'm going to promise to you fine folks? Ooh. If you are in town, I'm going to make sure Bill at least has a couple of the TVs on the FSU women's soccer game.
Ooh.
Their second-round matchup with Vanderbilt is, I think, Friday at 5:30 maybe. So I don't know why they would schedule it right in the middle of a meet and greet. That doesn't seem smart, but they did. Much to our dismay, but anyway, we'll make sure you got a couple. You'll have a Noles game on the TV to cheer, a good Noles team, by the way, to cheer for.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchants presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code WarchantBogo. Warchant BOGO. Thought another good exchange, or we were getting there, Corey. We were almost there. The $1 million question, if you will, what makes a good recruiter in this day and age? And Mike was kind of asked about what he's looking at, how much he's going to value recruiting prowess when it comes to getting these coordinators and these vacancies filled. And then he was going on and talking about, I think when you look across college football, the statement of what a great recruiter is, it's really twofold. So I felt like we were going to get some real insight into what it means to be a good recruiter in this day and age, because is it relationships? Is it simply NIL? What is it going to be? And he said his twofold approach is obviously signing them, great, but then it's what do you do when you get them here?
Yeah.
Developing. So I don't know how recruiter and developer overlaps in Mike's formula, but it does. But the way he kind of answered that, it does seem like not that I don't know. Maybe this is him kind of admitting a past mistake. To your point about guys that need to be around big boy football and be around these big time environments. I mean, nobody was, right? I mean, David Johnson had been in Knoxville for 1 year under Jeremy Pruitt. Kenny had been at Auburn for 1 year. And then everybody else had come from smaller programs that probably weren't competing for 4 or 5 star athletes on a consistent basis. So I don't know. I think the way he kind of handled that question, do you think that was a bit of illuminating or tipping his hand about just how much recruiting prowess he's going to seek from maybe not the coordinators, but just however he ends up filling out this coaching staff for 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I thought it was he tipped his hand a little, and it's smart too, because I think when Norvell took this job, because he had no ties to Florida, right? He didn't really. It was I guess Tennessee, obviously, and then Texas, and some in Arizona, but no real ties to the state of Florida, which isn't great when this is the most fertile area in the country. I mean, I guess it in Texas, and he thought that once I turn this program around, it's going to recruit itself because it's Florida State. And they're going to see what we did and how we turned it around and the culture that I created and how hard we play. And they're going to want to come play for us. And I'm talking about like 5-star super-duper guys. And, that's just not true. Even when you won 19 games in a row, you weren't recruiting at a Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon level. And we can say, okay, they're not those programs, but Florida State's been literally for 40 years, let's say 35 years. But no, I'm not going to, walk it back. For 40 years, Florida State was a better program than all those programs. And for a large chunk of that, they recruited much better than all those programs, or at least on equal footing. Certainly recruited much better than Oregon consistently for decades. And same with and Georgia would always recruit well and then do nothing with it. Florida State was one of the so Florida State deserves better players than this. They just do. Like when you go 13-0, when you win 19 games in a row, and you've proven that Florida State is back, quote unquote. Yeah, man, you need to be signed in a top 5 class, a top 3 class, in my opinion, especially in hindsight. I know I wasn't preaching from this mountain a year or two ago. But now I didn't have a 1-9 season to look at. Now that I do, it's obvious. Man, you've got to stockpile this roster with more guys that you develop. You've got to be more enticing to special players. You got a special kid from Albany. You got a special kid from Western Michigan. You got a special backup defensive end from Georgia. Not you, Marvin. The other one. You got some special from other places. I think Azaria is a really good cornerback. I think Jordan Travis obviously was a special quarterback that was here when you got here. He wasn't a magnet for special, even with all of this success. And so that makes you wonder, okay, if I can't just use my culture and my success on the field to bring in the talent we're looking for and quit losing these recruiting battles, and it's not like Florida State's not paying top dollar, then what's the issue? Where's the disconnect? And the only viable solution, I think, answer you would have is, okay, it's my assistant coaches aren't quite the level of recruiter that we need. They were good enough to get us a good team, but did they do anything to back up that great team with greatness coming in behind it? Did they use that as a God, I can't think of words today for someone. What is that thing where you run and you jump up on when you're gymnastics?
The pommel horse?
I guess a vault. I guess I was thinking of vault. There's no way I couldn't come up with the word vault. I don't know what I was. I guess I was. But they didn't use that as a vault to something better.
Springboard.
There he is. There it is. That's my dog, everyone. That's why we're the best partners in the podcast game and have been for years. And so they didn't use that as a springboard at all. They basically just fell straight into the pool. And that's what I think is so concerning, is if Mike Norvell can't recruit, if he can't use his power of charisma and culture, not that he's the most charismatic person in the world, but you guys know what I mean, the power of personality, the fact that he won all these games, to be enticing to this level of recruit, well, then he's got to go a different route. Because clearly it's not just winning games that matters, because nobody won more games heading into this season over the last 20 than Florida State. And did their recruiting class last year look like that? Did their recruiting class before this collapse look like that? It was a decent class. It was a top 15 class. But by Florida State standards, that's certainly nothing to puff your chest out about. So, yeah, I think absolutely I think he would be well served to take the Jimbo Fisher route when he first got here. But now it's going to be going into year 6, not year 1. But I don't know if that was Jimbo's first. Whenever he brought in Craig and Coley and those guys, maybe that was 10. Maybe that's when he took over, I guess. Yeah. And they just loaded the roster with greatness. And now it's 15 years later, and it's not as easy to recruit like that. You do have to pay to play for these guys to play for you. But, yeah, man, I think you've got to find a way to connect with some really big-time talent. And that's something, quite frankly, that Adam Fuller just wasn't doing. And I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but it's true. And none of these guys have been doing it. Patrick Surtain probably has had the best run, and he's only been here for like a year and a half. So I would absolutely think that whatever that even means, being a great recruiter, whatever that even means going into 2025, he needs to figure it out and get some.
Yeah, my concern, I think you hope that you can get enough good guys around you to. I think you need enough guys around you to lift you up, because I don't know. Mike just has not done a overwhelmingly great job with what he's done at a program like this and recruited high school players. And we can talk about this coach and that coach. I mean, and your head coach needs to also take a huge part in wooing these guys. And, you got commitments, but you couldn't hold on to them. And I don't know how much of that is on the assistant coach, how much that's on the head coach, and maybe him not totally connecting the way you want him to. But I think Mike might know himself really well now at this point with the way the landscape's been, Corey, all right, man, I'm going to handle the transfer portal really well. Like, I can connect really well with 22-year-old kids, 21-year-old kids that have been through it. That they don't care about the photo shoots anymore. They don't care about X, Y, and Z. They just want to be pushed. They want to be coached. They want to be molded properly. They see what I did with Jared and Jarian and Fisk and Keon and Johnny and Trey, and the list goes on. I can sell them well. But yeah, man, I'm not good with the 17-year-old kid. I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm not connecting well. So I think that's why you
know who he connects well with when it comes in general, but especially I think at that age, is the underdog kid. He can sell that. Yeah. I was an underdog too. I was an FCS. Was he a Division II or FCS?
FCS Central Arkansas.
Yeah. And then I started out as a GA at Arizona State now, or wherever he was, and coached wide receivers at Tulsa. And now look at me. We had the worst program in America when I took over, and we were awful in 2020. Like he's good at selling that and working hard. In 3-star recruits, like he got to the Cotton Bowl with a bunch of 2- and 3-star recruits. Yeah. That's his briar patch, man.
Yeah, you know who doesn't have chips on their shoulder, Corey? Guys ranked in the top 100 on the On3 composite rankings.
Exactly right, and that's what I'm saying. Like I think he connects much more with those guys because he was one of those guys. He's been around a lot of those guys, quite frankly. When you're at Arizona State and Pitt and Tulsa and Memphis, those are the guys you're coaching. That is your briar patch. That's where you feel the most comfortable. Well, man, you're in a palatial estate now, man. You're out of the briar patch. You've got to figure out a way to connect with the Jeremiah Smiths of the world. And again, I say Jeremiah Smiths because I have no idea how that recruiting went down. It sounds like he really was interested in Florida State, and I don't know if Ohio State promised him to name a building after him. I don't know how any of the recruiting works anymore. But I do know that a lot of big-time players, KJ Bolden, Travis Hunter, again, all different reasons, all different recruits, the biggest stars that he's had committed to him since he's been the Florida State head coach, none of them come. None of them eventually come. And or I shouldn't say that. Many of them don't come. And I don't think he maybe connects with those guys at the level. He needs a hype man. You know what I mean? Like, he needs a hype man to say, look, man, I don't know if you can see it now because you're 17, but go talk to Jared Burse and Braden Fisk about Mike Norvell. Go talk to Jordan Travis. Like, yes, he's going to be hard. It's not going to be fun for the first year playing in his program, but go ask those guys if they're having fun now.
It's going to be early, too.
Yeah, right. It's going to be 8 o'clock in the morning. You like getting up early? You're used to it. You're a high school kid. I know you got to get up at 5:30 in the morning because every high school in the country feels
First
the need to
bells
send
at
these kids.
7:20 or
It's
whatever.
ridiculous
It's
and has been
incredibly
forever.
dumb.
It's the stupidest thing we got going on in our country. It's just dumb. So you're used to getting up early. Well, stay used to it because you're going to keep getting up early practicing for him. But if you believe in him, this is the result. Like But he needs a hype man that's like coached 25 college All-Americans or something. Believe me, I've been in the SEC for 15 years. There's nobody like this guy. And even if the guy's lying, he needs somebody like that with the track record and the cachet to really connect with these guys, especially in the state of Florida, but really all over the country, the big-time dudes, to make them believe. Because, look, man, we have to be honest. In this day and age, if you were a 5-star athlete, even if Florida State was 10-1, and Georgia was recruiting you, or Ole Miss, or A&M, and you watch these games on Saturday, and you see all the attention that's given to these games, it would be hard maybe to go play at Florida State when you see what the crowd is like at Duke. Like, it's just different, man. It's just different, right?
Yeah.
So that makes it a harder place to recruit. I'm not giving him a pass. I'm not excusing what he's done. But Jimbo started in 2010 before the SEC springboarded, I was going to say vaulted, into its own entity, its own universe, where every time they just became the biggest thing on earth. Was right after Jimbo's championship. Last 10 years has just been an SEC marathon. And I wanted to use a different word, but I'm not. But it has been. It's just like the SEC wasn't this 10 or 15 years ago. Jimbo didn't have to recruit against this necessarily. It was still the best conference, but it wasn't the only conference. And it wasn't the only conference that teams talked about. And it certainly wasn't the only conference that was going to have 5 teams in the playoff. So that makes it harder to sell an ACC team when you're recruiting against the SEC. The counter to that is Dabo's still doing it pretty well. You know, they still recruit top 10 classes every year. Every year they have 2 or 3 just special dudes, usually on defense these days, but they have some special dudes, and it's not against the law to convince kids that are being recruited by Georgia to come to Florida State. I mean, he got Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence are both from Georgia, North Georgia. Cade Klubnik is from Austin, Texas, right?
Yep.
He convinced all these badass 5-star quarterbacks to say no to their home teams. Cade Klubnik lived at the University of Texas and come to piddly-ass, love you, Clemson, South Carolina to go play football. So if he can convince kids to come play at Clemson, Mike Norvell or somebody can convince really good players to come to Florida State. He needs to, start doing it again.
Miami currently 9th in the rankings. Team recruiting high school, 4th the year before, 8th the year before that. So Mario kind of also figuring out a way to pull in some dudes, even with this conference hanging from your neck like an albatross.
Well, and the difference is, Florida. I don't know what Florida State was ranked last year, but they had a similar season to what Miami's having this year. Better because they didn't lose a game, but
12th Florida State, 12th.
So Cristobal had the 4th ranked class in the country last year.
5th. Sorry, that was my bad.
But in the country, right?
Yes, correct.
So they had a better recruiting class last year after Florida State had just beaten them for a 3rd year in a row.
Correct.
And went 13-0 and won the ACC. In Miami, the whole joke is they haven't won anything in 20-something years. They still out-recruited Florida State then. And so that's where it's like it's not like because right now it's an easy excuse to make. Well, yeah, how do you recruit when you're 1-9? Absolutely, it's hard. But you didn't recruit the way you needed to recruit when you won 10 games and then 13 games either, in my opinion. But hey, just go get yourself 50 guys out of the transfer portal, baby.
It's Wake Up Warchant. We're back. We're presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code WarchantBogo. Buy one, get one free. The Berry Workout Plus. It's going to give me my 7 hours of energy, packed with vitamins. Give me my pump. Going to feel good. Get my Tuesday dominated. That's how I do it, courtesy of Vitamin Energy. Yeah, the quote at the end of this one, Corey, as we wrap up the thoughts on the recruiting and then pivot to one last thing before we wrap up. When he was asked about evaluating a candidate and the recruiting aspect of it, and I'm just going to jump in here like mid-quote, but absolutely the recruiting piece of that and the relationship, people that truly enjoy that aspect of this profession. And
I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. I forgot about that, yeah.
People that truly enjoy that aspect of this profession and building relationships with the players is going to be critical.
Yeah.
So that, I don't want to say it was pointing fingers, but maybe that was a little bit illuminating in terms of where guys were at previously that were on this staff. Because, again, we talked about you didn't have a good product to sell. You've had a good product to sell, and you've never really been great at recruiting. So it's fair to say that maybe you had guys on this staff that were more of the Dan Mullen, bent of coaches, which, by the way, everybody, he's not coming here. Move along.
What?
I don't think Dan Mullen's going to be an offensive coordinator here.
Is that a rumor?
No, I mean,
Okay.
Let's not. And again, if you want a really a high level recruiter, that's not him. That's the whole reason why Florida fans get really upset whenever somebody tweets that Billy Napier is whatever in his last 20 games. Dan Mullen was this in 20 games. Florida fans are always like, yeah, you forget that he just quit recruiting on. He's never liked recruiting. He didn't like recruiting at Mississippi State either. And I'm sorry to interject that into this aspect of the discussion, Corey. But yeah, just him saying that he wants guys that truly enjoy that aspect of this profession. Maybe he, thought that some guys faked it enough for the first few years. Or like, oh yeah, I'm all about it, Mike. And then eventually it bore fruit that they didn't. So he needs to make sure they do like that part, because it is part of the job, man. It is part of this golden parachute you have when you sign this guaranteed deal for 3 years and $7 million or whatever it's going to be.
And I wonder, I thought that was. I'm glad you brought that up, because when he said I want somebody, the relationships he brought that up. He didn't just say, well, it depends on the only relationship that matters is their relationship to money. He did talk about the relationships that these coaches build. And he does think it's important. And then he said, I want somebody that loves that aspect of the job. Yeah, man, absolutely. And you understand too, right? This was a pretty old coaching staff. I don't know their ages specifically. I know Odell Haggins graduated college in 1988, so he's 50. He's as old as Tyson. I guess we talked about that last week.
57.
Adam Fuller, I assume my age, little older or younger, but late 40s, early 50s. Randy Shannon played linebacker at the same time as Odell, so mid 50s.
58.
Chris Thompson doesn't seem like a real spry, young, energetic dude.
56.
So, okay, but to me, you're trying to relate to 18-year-old kids with a bunch of guys that could live in the villages. That's probably not the best route to go anymore, or if it ever was. I would think the staff needs to get. And Odell might be back. Chris Thompson might be back. No idea. Randy Shannon might be your DC next year. Going to save some money.
They're different, though, right? I mean, I don't want to, you can't compare Chris Thompson and Randy Shannon and Odell Haggins. I mean, the amount of guys that they've coached, Shannon and Haggins, and put into the league versus what Thompson's done, I don't think that's a fair comparison.
True, but I would say I don't know that Randy Shannon and Odell are going to deal with much BS, huh? When it
comes to playing the game with a 17-year-old,
got to grease the wheels and play the game with the kids and their parents and their quote unquote handlers. Odell ain't got time for that. Randy Shannon doesn't have. I mean, they played when college football was college football, man. They played at the birth of the Miami-Florida State rivalry and dynasty. They were there for all that. They helped make this sport what it was. It's got to be darn hard to try to get these guys to come to your school now and deal with it. You know what I mean? It's got to make you blood boil to a certain. Oh, I gotta tell this kid what we're gonna pay him. Could you come play football for me at Florida State? Odell's saying something like that. Come on, man. That's just got to be. It's got to make their skin crawl a little bit. So, maybe go a little younger with guys that are more used to it. It doesn't, it doesn't insult them as much, because it insults old guys like me. This whole, and you too, I think, and you're younger than me, but I feel like we're all a little upset, people of my age anyway, of just what this sport has become. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine having played at the birth of the revolution of college football and been so instrumental like Odell and Randy Shannon were at their respective schools when they were making college football one of the most popular sports on the planet, to then see what it's become 35 years later. It might be hard to deal with that and to deal with the personalities, and it's become a lot like, in a way, especially when you have to retain kids on your own roster now, a lot like AAU basketball. And like, man, I hope he doesn't go to that travel team. We need him. He's our best player. He never shows up to practice. His parents are a nightmare, but he scores 30 a game. We need him. Oh, no, now he's going to beat our rival. Because I can't imagine that's what they enjoy. So it either way, even if they don't, you need to get younger, man. You need to get younger. You can't have, I don't know, was that 5 coaches in their 50s? Again, I guess we didn't hear what Adam Fuller was.
I couldn't find it, but I think he graduated college in '98. It looked like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's my age. He's right at 50. He's 49 or 50. But also, does he seem like the kind of guy that plays that game?
No.
Yeah, he's a Boston dude through and through. Kind of a no-nonsense guy. I just, not that you want a shuckster. You don't want somebody like that. I don't even know if that's a word. But you do need guys that can relate a little bit maybe more. If we're worried that much about recruiting, I do think age is a little bit of a factor. And quite frankly, it was an older coaching staff, and you have a chance now to reset it and make it a generation younger. Guys that will tell you that LeBron is better than Michael. Because I can guarantee you Randy Shannon and Odell Higgins think the opposite. But maybe go get a couple. They're wrong, by the way. But go get a couple of guys that think LeBron's a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. And see where that takes you.
Last question before you leave here. What are your thoughts on LeBron, MJ? What do you think's better? That's
a normal thing to ask someone. And he's like, man, LeBron, you kidding me? LeBron goes to 10 straight NBA Finals or whatever it was. And it's like, yeah, but did you see Michael Jordan play? Doesn't matter. I saw, no, yeah, it does. One's better than the other. And let me say this. I'm going to go ahead and say this because I'm not a LeBron hater at all. I think he's the second best basketball player I've ever seen. I also think he's had the best basketball career of anyone ever. I just don't think he's better than Michael Jordan at their peaks.
Yeah.
But I think LeBron James has had the better career. Probably as good a baseball player too. But he's definitely had the better career because he has all the records. And he's still playing it. Has there ever been anybody in any sport, Aslan, this would be something fun to interesting, that was the best player in the world at 21? Or let's say I would say LeBron James is the best 19-year-old, 20-year-old basketball player that's ever lived. Would you agree with that? Like his second year in the league.
Sounds probably right. I don't know. Was Wilt playing at 20 or is he still in college?
No, he was still in college. And Jordan was still in college. Yeah. So I would say LeBron, I think he got him to the championship. He got him to the finals his third year. But he was the best 20-year-old that's ever lived. He's also the best 40-year-old that's ever lived. And you could probably say he's the best 39-year-old that's ever lived and the best 21-year-old that's ever lived. Like, there's never been anybody that's been the best 40-year-old at a sport and the best 20-year-old at a sport. That's nuts. Yeah. But they'd be like Tyson. Maybe Tyson is the best 58-year-old boxer in the world. Prove me wrong, someone. Prove me wrong.
Last thing on the way out, Pete Nakos, who I should have mentioned, is going to join us on the show tomorrow to give us some insight.
That's a good get.
Part of the On3 network, so he kind of obligated to come hang out with the biggest website on the network because of Irish O'Fell and Corey Clark and Gene Williams and everybody else, not because of me.
All of us, buddy. We're all in this together. Literally, we are all in this together.
Also, R.I.P. Biff Poggi, the guy from Charlie. He's getting fired. A lot of coaches getting fired year two. We kind of trendsetters.
Yeah.
David Coburn, Florida State, getting rid of guys year two. Like, not doing it.
Hey, when you know it's not working,
yeah.
Why sit around and wait? Now, that doesn't apply to Mike Norvell, $65 million. Anyway, go ahead, Aslan.
He's got notes from his notebook yesterday, Corey, where he's got, everything broken down, open coordinator jobs, open head coaching jobs. And under Southern Miss, Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech seems to be one guy that they might be lining up for an interview here. But he ends his notebook or his blurb with Southern Miss. Pete Nakos was saying, Georgia tight ends coach Todd Hartley, a name to watch. Former Southern Miss players Patrick Surtain Sr. and Derek Nix have also interviewed.
Yeah.
So like past tense.
Yeah.
So sounds like Surtain in the mix for that job. I wonder how he'll weigh that opportunity versus possibly sticking around here. I wonder if you would. I mean, if he's good enough to be the head coach there, maybe he's good enough to be your defensive coordinator here, co-coordinator. Oh, maybe we
Who's
can talk.
Surtain you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that you need to use, and this isn't, I'm not trying to impugn Surtain or diminish anything about him, but I don't know that you need to use Southern Miss as a gauge for what is good enough for Florida State. Like, that's been I don't understand what's happened to that program, by the way.
Yeah, Southern Miss is a really good Group of 5 program for a very, very long time.
I mean, that's where Brett Favre played.
Correct.
They were in a bowl game. Well, maybe that was the last bowl game they were in. It just seems like back in the 90s, they were always pulling off an upset a year.
You know, they had a really long bowl streak until Ellis Johnson got there, and they went 0-12 that year.
12, yeah.
But then they had Larry Fedora, and they were killing it. They had Steve Bauer, I think was the name of the head coach. I don't think he coached Favre, but I think his name was Steve Bauer.
Jeff Bowers.
Jeff
I think
Bauer.
it was Jeff Bowers, yeah.
Jeff Bauer.
Jeff with a GE, by the way.
No, it was Jeff with a J, I thought.
I thought it was GE.
No,
could be
Geoff.
wrong.
Not Geoff. That's Geoff Collins.
Okay,
the
right.
DC at North Carolina.
That's right.
But yeah, Jeff Bauer was the head coach of Southern Miss, and they were like Florida State light. They had the streak of bowl games, the streak of non-losing seasons, and then
pretty proud program.
Yeah,
man.
very, very proud program in that state. And then Ellis Johnson cratered it after Larry Fedora left for North Carolina. But then they hired Todd Monken. Todd Monken got it back rolling, and then he went to Georgia, and then they hired Jay Hobson. He didn't really – I think had them maybe 1 or 2 bowl games, and they hired Will Hall, and they fired Will Hall here in season. So, it's
well-deserved, too, because that program is absurdly bad. It just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of talent in Mississippi, and they've always been pretty good. It's crazy they're that bad. What was I going to say?
But Surtain and what he deems as being good enough.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, we'll see with Surtain. I do think, and again, I know I've talked not great about any of this coaching staff. I certainly wouldn't think that Surtain. No, I don't think anybody would be upset if he came back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think
no.
any of this has to do with him. I think the cornerback play has been good. I think Azarie has improved dramatically since Surtain got here. I think Fintrell Cypress got better. I know he's been hurt the last few weeks, but I thought he was really Fintrell was pretty darn good this year.
Yeah.
Like, it's just nobody had to throw to him because they would throw to the wide open tight ends or running backs or just run it. But yeah, and I think Quindarius, I like the Ricky Knight kid a lot. They got some good young and Edwin Joseph. They've got some good young DBs, I think. And Surtain's done a good job of attracting talent. And I think developing him a little bit. I mean, we'll see as the years go on. But I wouldn't be upset if he stuck around. Everybody else, literally everybody else, it'd be okay.
Yeah, I just wonder if Mike. I wonder if Mike has to sweeten anything to keep Patrick around, or you're just like, hey man, that's a good opportunity. That's your alma mater. You're charismatic. That's a state that's got enough talent to go around for 2 other major programs with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So. Maybe just kind of wish him, thanks for what you did. But he's 48 years old, grew up in New Orleans, but also has a lot of ties to South Florida. So would not want to lose him. I feel like that's a good piece to keep. I feel like he probably embodies some of that, enjoys that aspect of the job kind of line that Mike had about guys building relationships and recruiting guys.
I hope so. I mean, we don't know behind the scenes, but it sure seems like he did a decent job at least of recruiting since he's been here. And man, I think that name rings out. Partially because of what he did with the Dolphins all those years. I mean, he was a borderline All-Pro a lot, but then also his son is the best corner in the league, I think. Mm-hmm. But why don't the Noles just do that? Just who's the best receiver right now? Is it Jamar Chase?
Yeah, probably.
Or Justin Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson, yeah.
Does one of their dads coach? Literally just start getting. I mean, just you want to go play. You're a good receiver, huh? He's a really good receiver. Jordan Jefferson. Why don't you come? It's Jordan Jefferson, right?
Yes.
I don't know why I want to say Justin Jefferson. He's from the '80s, but go. Or
it's Justin Jefferson. Yeah,
there you go.
From LSU that plays for. Yeah, it's not Jordan. It's Justin Jefferson.
And who's the best quarterback now? Mahomes.
Mahomes. Yeah.
His dad was a baseball player, an athlete. Yeah. He could probably teach you how to throw the ball correctly. Come play for Mahomes' dad. And that you might get Mahomes at some games. I don't know. You know what I like to do, Aslan? I like to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Just get the best player at every position's dad to be your coach. But that implies that Surtain didn't earn this. I'm not making fun of that. He was at the Dolphins. He's been in football for a very long time. He also had a great run. I know it's high school, but he had a great run as a high school head coach and developed a lot of talent. got a lot of talent to play hard for him. Which is not the easiest thing in the world to do anymore, so I have no issue with him. I think he's been good on this staff, and if I was Norvell and I would like to keep him.
All right, that's a wrap for us. Seminole headlines coming at you 1 to 3 o'clock later today. We'll be at practice, so we'll have footage. I think addendum here. I think I misspoke earlier. I think we're going to get Randy Shannon and Papuchis after practice today. Then we'll just get Mike solo Wednesday. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get some players. I think we'll maybe get a player or two, but that's what we were told after the press conference yesterday was that you're going to get coordinators, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator on Tuesday today, and then we'll get Mike on Wednesday. So check out warchant.com around, 9 in the morning or so for tweets of guys running up to practice. You like that stuff, right? You like those tweets.
Yeah.
Then 9:45 or so, we'll have video footage. Maybe it'll look different, Corey. Maybe it'll look different. I'll be out there with the camera documenting it as best as I can. And then we'll do another podcast, everybody. And again, as we said, headlines 1 to 3 o'clock, keeping you entertained, informed. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.